Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning, everybody. Today we have a very special event, an eminent and brilliant speaker, of whom more later. But first, I must acknowledge some eminent dignitaries who are with us, some eminent visitors who are with us this morning. Revered Swami Atmapriyananda Ji Maharaj, who is the Vice Chancellor of the Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda Education and Research Institute, our university, which is near our main monastery in Belur. We have with us respected Dr. Paula Banerjee, who is the Vice Chancellor of the Sanskrit University in Calcutta. We have the Honorable Consul General of India in New York, Mr. Sandeep Chakrabarti, Mrs. Taruna Chakrabarti, and a number of others whom I will not name for want of time. But back to our speaker, Professor Arindam Chakrabarti, whom we are very glad to finally host here as our speaker. He's been here earlier, but now he has actually come to New York. He was in the University of Hawaii for many, many years, decades actually. But just a few months ago, he joined the Stony Brook University as the holder of the Mattu Endowed Chair in Classical Indic Studies. Dr. Chakrabarti is an internationally renowned scholar in Indian philosophy, aesthetics, the philosophy of art, Buddhism, and the philosophy of language. Now, this doesn't do justice. I was at New York University for a 2-day workshop, just attending, organized by Professor Janardhan Ganeri there, and eminent philosophers, especially those working in the area of attention and related areas in Indian philosophy, were attending. Now, at one point, I saw Professor Chakrabarti speaking with David Chalmers, the New York University. And I was standing there and I was thinking, here is the most famous philosopher in the Western analytic tradition today in the world, speaking with the most well-known philosopher in the Indian tradition today in the world. And this is a good photo op. But I was going to take a picture, but then I thought they were having a serious conversation, and the Vedanta paparazzi shouldn't disturb them. So I didn't dare take a picture. But that's who Professor Chakrabarti is. His specialization is in Indian philosophy, aesthetics, philosophy of art, language, Buddhism, of course. He is the author of 17 scholarly monographs in English, Sanskrit, and Bengali. I'll give you a sample of some of the interesting things he has done. Just a few weeks ago, I was at the New York Public Library browsing a book written by Professor Chakrabarti. The book is in Sanskrit. Yet the book is about Western philosophy. So it is Pratyaya Pramana Mimamsa. Pratyaya Pramana Mimamsa. So it means epistemology in the West, or epistemology in the Western tradition. What he did was, he took the entire history of Western philosophy, especially epistemology in the West, and he translated it into Sanskrit, so that the traditional scholars in India, I think especially Tirupati University, who do not understand English, for them, to give them access to Western philosophy. We are engaged in this effort to authentically introduce Indian philosophy to the West. That really engages us. But the opposite is also true. Western thought has to be authentically introduced to traditional Indian scholars. So that was one book. And 17 such books. His BA is from the Presidency College in Calcutta. Again, that reminds me, once I went to the philosophy department in Calcutta University where he got MA from Calcutta University. The philosophy department in Calcutta University actually had gone with Swami Priyananda, and where the head of the Department of Philosophy sits, above that there is a drawing, a painting. And they said, Arindam, when he was a student here, he painted it, and it's still there. He's multifaceted. He's not just a philosopher, but he's an artist, he's a wonderful singer, he is a sculptor, cook, and multiple areas, endless. MA from Calcutta University and D.Phil from Oxford. He has held, of course, in Hawaii, University of Hawaii, academic positions there, but also the University of Delhi before that, and the University College, London, United Kingdom. One new dimension of Professor Chakrabarti I saw in the workshop at New York University. I knew about this, of course, but I saw it with my own eyes. He has encouraged a new generation of students to follow him in Indian philosophy. I heard talks by at least 3 of those whom he taught and inspired. Amit Chaturvedi, who is in Hong Kong, who spoke about Yogacara Buddhism and attention. Then Nilanjan Das, who is in University College London, who spoke so fluently and so fast about the most difficult text in Advaita Vedanta, Khandana Khanda Khadya, but I could hardly follow anything what was going on, but I understood it was good. And then Anand Vaidya, who is here today, from San Jose, who spoke about attention and a new approach to attention and self, combining Western and Indian philosophy perspectives. They're good, they're professional, wonderful. But what I liked was Professor Chakrabarti has been able to successfully transmit his fire, his passion, into this new generation of philosophers who are doing philosophy in Indian philosophy and related areas. Somebody was asking him, he famously does not drive. Somebody was asking him, you don't drive? He said, no, I don't drive, I'm not a driver, but I'm driven. In both senses, he's driven from place to place, but he's also a driven man. And he has successfully transmitted this drive to the next generation of Indian philosophers. Professor Arindam Chakrabarti, he will speak about dreams, reality, and love in Yoga Vasistha and Vivekananda's Vedanta.
He is dreaming now, said Tweedledee. And what do you think he is dreaming about? Alice said, nobody can guess that. Why? It's clear. He is dreaming about you. Tweedledee exclaimed, clapping his hands triumphantly. And if he let off dreaming about you, where do you suppose you will be? Alice said, like a good realist, where I am now, of course, said Alice. Doesn't matter if he wakes up or not, I'll be here. Not you, said Tweedledee. He retorted contemptuously. You would be nowhere. Why? You are only a sort of thing in his dream, nothing else. If that king was to awake, added Tweedledum, you would go out. If he wakes up, you would go out bang, just like a candle. This is from Lewis Carroll, Through the Looking Glass, 1871. I had planned to start my talk in deference to the atmosphere with a very nice shloka, Sanskrit verse, in praise of my own teacher, Sitaram Das Omkarnath. But then the serene organ sound and Swamiji's own Asatoma Sadgamaya. I said, the sublime has already happened. Now it's time for the ridiculous. But it is not at all inauthentic to quote Lewis Carroll before one speaks about Swami Vivekananda's Vedanta. Here is what Swamiji said. Within 5 years of the publication of Alice in Wonderland in 1866, in 1871, Swami Vivekananda writes, "There is no such thing as law or connection in this world, but we are constantly thinking that there must be a great deal of connections we have to discover." All of you have probably read Alice in Wonderland. It is the most wonderful book for children. When I read it, I was delighted. It was in my mind always to write that sort of book for children. I'm so glad to see I should never compare, Swamiji with myself, but I'm glad to see that he also had the temptation after reading a great book to see, I wish I wrote that. One idea comes and jumps into another. What pleases me most was that that book shows that everything in the world is incongruous. It is an absurd world. So this man brought back his thoughts to childhood, which were perfectly connected to him as a child, and composed this book for children. And all these books that men write, including my own books, trying to make children swallow their own ideas as men, are total nonsense. We too are grown-up children, that is all. The world is the same unconnected thing in Wonderland. So, hence my invocation verse, Tweedledum and Tweedledee. On a more serious note, on 28th of August, 1900, the beginning of the millennium, Swami Vivekananda wrote, well, not the millennium, the century, to Sister Nivedita from Paris, and I quote, "The world as it is not real, is not eternal. Thank the Lord. How can the future be any better? That must be an effect of this one, at least like this, if not worse. Do not expect anything better." He was anticipating Trump. Dreams, oh dreams. Then he says, dreams, oh dreams, dream on, to Nivedita. That doesn't mean dreams are valueless. And this is where Yoga Vasistha comes in. Saying that the world is dream is not to lull you into a sleep. It's to make you think. You have the freedom to dream a better dream, which is what to change the world is. So Swamiji, who was very fond of Marxism and predicted that the next age would be the laborers, workers, Shudra age, he would have loved the 11th thesis on Feuerbach, that the philosophers have only interpreted the world, but the task is to change it. But know that it is possible. It would not have been possible to change the world if the world had fixed natural laws. It's because the world is a dream that you can undream it and dream something better. So people don't understand, how can Yoga Vasistha be an active text? It's just like an elaboration, the 24,000 verses, the 32,000 verses of Yoga Vasistha, elaboration of the Bhagavad Gita. Except speaker, hearer are switched. In the Bhagavad Gita, God is the speaker and teacher. And Arjuna, a fairly bright fellow, is the student. In the Yoga Vasistha, it is God, Ram, who is the student. He is confused. And he is being taught by a human being, Vasistha. So it's Rama takes the role of the student. And there, the whole philosophy is so much illusionism that people, German scholars, even now, as you know, German scholars know better Veda and better Indian philosophy than any Indians ever did. So they have said it's actually a Buddhist text, right? And of course, it has to be after Christ and so on. But dreams, oh dreams, says Swamiji, Vivekananda. Dreams, dream, only dream. Kill dream by dream. Letter to Sister Nivedita. Kill dream by dream. Kill this dream by another dream. Our dreams, especially the ones that we get most vividly taken in by. Now, quotation of Vivekananda is finished. I have 3 parts of the lecture, and I promise you not to keep you too long. It is to my best interest that these 2 of the dignitary audiences, they get to talk at least 5 minutes to each other, so I will leave some time to, and I'll put them up upstairs. This, by the way, is the place where I didn't thank the organizers, because I honestly feel that I'm actually the owner of this place, and Swami, I am welcoming that Swamiji is here. Our dreams, especially the ones we get most vividly taken in by, when they're broken and reflected upon, turn us into philosophers. Some of these dreams we call life, some of them we call a long-drawn love affair. But when they break, as they did in the last scene of Ibsen's play Doll's House, then Nora asks, okay, now you don't love me. They're breaking up at the end of Doll's House. But at least the past, like, didn't you once used to love me? Wasn't that real? The husband says, honestly, no. From the present experience, I have realized all of it was false. I never loved you. I said, how is that? My teacher, Professor Shivajivan Bhattacharya, says, this is where the breaking of a dream, the breaking of a relationship, actually works backward causation. That the present breaking experience makes the past actual experience, which was real then. But now, in the light of that, it's all nullified. Okay? Nullified, but you cannot forget it. You know, I was once taken in by this. And then you can wonder, in a detached point of view, looking at these 2 points of view, the dream, taken in by the dream, and then coming out of the dream, look at me. Which one is real? It looked so clearly real then, back then, and objective, and yet it was simply nothing at all. Mandukya Upanishad, Gaudapada, Mandukya Karika calls it abhuta parikalpa, imagination of something without any basis. It's not like there is some kind of a rope which you imagine to be a snow. There is no rope also. It's just out of, in the vacuum, you are imagining, abhuta parikalpa. How could I then see and feel it so vividly, we wonder? Like all our experiences, dreams too, must be felt in and caused by the body. But they often liberate us from the tyranny of the body. I have a little bit of liberation every night. I leave the body according to Upanishad, and I roam around all places that I want to. You know, if you sprinkle a little bit of Freud on the Upanishads, you get all your unfulfilled desires, etc., etc. And then you come back again. So which one is real? We begin to wonder, perhaps this whole nightmare of a so-called real objective life, where every time I'm having a pleasant experience, you know, some timekeeper in a conference says, get real. Next speaker, go away. Or every time, I mean, my idea of a great rapture, ecstatic experience is being allowed to speak forever. Right? So from that, rudely I'm brought back by a shock by some kind of bloody timekeeper. So, Upanishads, one simple etymological thing. None of you here, young, old, you know, babies in arms, should not think that ever the Upanishads can become passé or old-fashioned. Because literally, they are called the cutting edge of knowledge. The word for knowledge in Sanskrit is Veda, direct knowledge. And this is an Indo-European word from which eventually the word video is derived. Both seeing and hearing. Vedas are Shruti, but they lead to direct experience. So vid is the verb from which video comes in English and from which Veda comes. Edge of the Veda in Sanskrit is Veda Anta. Anta means edge. So it is the cutting edge of knowledge, always. Okay, if you take it as some old wisdom that you in your originality, because it's somehow there is a market for it, you are explaining, the ancient people said, you don't get it. It is the knowledge of the future. It's always the cutting edge. So that's what Vedanta is. Upanishads, also called edge of knowledge, take dreams very seriously. There is another reason why, even in contemporary philosophy, dreams are taken seriously. Because of Descartes, who is the father of modern philosophy. And it is biographically true, I don't know how many philosophy professors know this, that before that, the morning he started writing Meditations on First Philosophy, the first chapter of which starts with a dream skepticism, and I'll talk about dream skepticism in 1 minute. But that morning, the previous night, the whole night, he woke up 3 times and he had 3 dreams. In the second dream, he saw a big storm has come and all the leaves of his books are strewn around. And they are thrown away. And he feels insecure. So he starts his method of scientific method by saying, we have to start by rejecting every knowledge that we have got from science, from testimony, from scriptures as false. Entertaining the possibility that a demon has deceived me into believing all this. So empty your mind of all previous beliefs. Starts with skepticism, doubt. He got it, the idea from the dream. 3 dreams. And then comes dream skepticism, which is all over Buddhist philosophy, even Gaudapada's Mandukya Karika. And that is a very simple fact. It's not just, Wittgenstein was a great realist. At least in the early life, in the Tractatus. The world is all that is the case. First sentence of the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. But Wittgenstein wrote in the notebooks in 1915. In 16, Tractatus is written. In 1915, he writes, our life, this is Wittgenstein, not Advaita Vedanta, not Shankara, not Vivekananda. Our life is like a dream. But in our better hours, we wake up just enough to realize that we are dreaming. Most of the time, though, we are fast asleep. This is from notebooks of Wittgenstein. Why are people saying that? I'll try to explain it. Okay, I'm not underestimating your intellect. I'm just trying my own ability to, without jargon, because Dr. Paula Banerjee has said that my lectures are unintelligible. So that's a talent. That's a challenge. Unintelligible. So I will make the so-called hardest part, which we take as gospel truth, as if, all these people, they have nothing better to do. They don't have real life jobs. So they think the world is a dream. And so very close 60s kind of, sort of just next to drug experience and all that. So that Vedanta is like the safest, second best, method of getting into some kind of a zone. But that is not it. The hardest argument, there is a very subtle argument behind both the Upanishads as well as Socrates' Theaetetus argument. What is to be proved is that no one can ever be sure in a rigorous proof that right this experience now is not a dream. Why? Why? There are not too many extremely sort of literate, literary Bengalis here. But literate, yes, but not literary. So there is a poet called Shankho Ghosh. He wrote this poem, which is not about dream and illusion, but about stupidity. And the poem says, this is how the poem goes, if somebody becomes very stupid suddenly from being very intelligent, obviously one mark of the stupidity will be that he himself will not realize that he has become stupid. If so, how do I know that I haven't become stupid now? হঠাৎ কখনো যদি কেউ বোকা হয়ে যায় তাহলে সে আর নিজে তো জানে না সে যে বোকা হয়ে গেছে, তাহলে আমিও বোকা হয়ে যাইনি যে কি তার প্রমাণ? That's the point. Same about dream. Now, at the time of dream, it looks like wakefulness. It looks very vivid. So, now, Advaita Vedantins say that's why the world is like a dream. Nayayikas, who are realists, they fight tooth and nail. And even Descartes, who starts with that, in the sixth meditation, Descartes gives the same criteria. No, there are clear criteria of distinguishing. And that's commonsensical. Dreams are chaotic. Real waking life is systematic. Notice how Vivekananda said, there's nothing systematic about the reality world. But if you think it is law-like, there is a cause-effect relationship, then it is systematic. Right? Now, if it is systematic and coherent, and then it says that waking life has many other marks. In waking life, you will never have this experience that you got into a house on the ground floor, and then you are climbing up and up and up. After 7 floors, you reach the basement. That experience is possible only in dream, because it is in dream is incoherent. So let us suppose, now I grant Descartes, I grant the Nyaya people, the realists, that there is a criterion C such that if the set of characteristics, features C belongs to an experience, that experience is not a dream but waking life. And if C is not there, it could be a dream. Suppose there is such a criterion. So I'm letting that premise go. Yes, there is such a criterion. Now, on this particular experience, you have to apply that criterion. You have to say, this experience, now that we are listening to a lecture, okay, and not all of us are so tired that we are feeling sleepy, and up till now with all these stories, and hope it has been more or less interesting, so I'm getting to the boring part. So yet, but the thing is that this is not just a joke. Look at this. So criterion C, I apply, and I say, this is not dream, this is waking. But there is a catch. Am I really perceiving and judging that this experience has criterion C, or am I dreaming that it has criterion C? I could be dreaming that this has C. That doesn't prove that it has C. In fact, one question that very recently, taking from one line in Spinoza's Ethics, people have started asking. And Anand, who by the way is not my student at all, he's an eminent philosopher on his own right, but of course he has paid me some attention, so I can sort of claim. I tried to bask in reflected glory. But I'm giving Anand also a little task, simple task. If I dream that I am thinking, does it follow that I am thinking? That's simple. Because people say, if I dream that I'm climbing a mountain, I'm not climbing a mountain. I'm only dreaming. But people like Descartes think that the thinking that you do, many scientists say, I don't take it to be true, but I got this idea during dream. as if the idea I really got it. So it is not uniformly correct to say, I dream that P, therefore P is false. But this is a question to be found out. Is the thinking immune to the correction? You see, everything else is subject to the correction. I dreamt that this, I dreamt that. Now I know that that was a dream, it's corrected. That's not it, because I only merely dreamt that. But I dreamt, I am now dreaming. Suppose I'm now dreaming that I'm thinking. If I'm dreaming that I'm talking, I'm not talking. I'm asleep. People in sleep cannot talk. But people who are dreaming can think. So is that thinking real or unreal? This remains a philosophical problem. I mean, you have to leave some problems unsolved. Otherwise, why will you pay us? Right? Now, unlike the realist, pluralist Nyaya Vaisheshika, where dreams, along with illusions and hallucinations, are treated merely as varieties of non-knowledge, aprama, avidya, the Upanishads take dream experiences as worthy of deep phenomenological contemplation. Not only is this putatively objective waking world likened to a long-drawn, collectively shared dream, according to Yoga Vasistha, the dream of Hiranyagarbha. It's the dream of God, like the king who is dreaming of Alice and Tweedledum. The very claims of solidity and objectivity that veridical waking perceptions come with are questioned by the dream analogy, insofar as objects appear just as solid and out there, even in dreams. In a Ramakrishna Kathamrita, in the Gospel, Ramakrishna says this vividly. He said, yes, of course, I'm constantly hearing that the world, the hard world, is made of my consciousness. Then he says, but when I press it down, it feels so hard, it doesn't feel like consciousness. He says, Jagotke tiple, eto shokto lage keno? If it is nothing but my ideas. Why we can never eliminate the possibility that all this is a dream, I have just told you. You cannot eliminate the possibility. Because any criterion you give, the criterion may be right. There is a distinction between dream and reality. But you cannot tell whether this one is a dream or not. So that's one of the reasons. A very important contemporary logical, epistemological question, which I have just gone through. When we are dreaming, most often we do not know that we are dreaming. Although lucid dreams come in different kinds and grades of self-disbelief. But when I'm awake, for example, right now, I know that I'm awake. There's no doubt about it. There was in the turn of the century, in fact, all the way up to 1950s, the last valedictory speech that G.E. Moore gave as a chairholder of the Cambridge philosophy professor, at the time of Bertrand Russell, is called A Defense of Common Sense, where he proved that the external world really exists simply by saying, look at all of you. I'm raising one hand. Isn't this a hand? I know that it's a hand. You know that it's a hand. So forget about all that bogus skepticism. We are awake and alive. Fine enough. This just shows, according to Jerry Valberg, a former colleague of University College London, who has written a beautiful book called Dream, Death, and something else, an experience. His first book was called Puzzle of Experience. He says, and I quote him, all this, my body, my open eyes, my being awake, the chairs and people in the room, the past that I remember, could be a long dream, but it cannot be my dream. It is the Buddhists who sometimes says, Yogachara Buddhist, that it is individual's dream. And that leads to I and my ideas alone exist, which position in philosophy is called solipsism. Okay? There is an extreme Vedanta, Drishti Srishti, which comes close to it. But about solipsism, the joke is that Bertrand Russell once wrote that I almost became a solipsist. There is no other proof that I exist and nothing else exists. That could be that way. But when he published it, Russell had a great sense of humor. He writes in his autobiography, I wish I never published that because I got a letter from an American lady who said, I was so glad to hear that you are a solipsist. I am a solipsist too. And Russell said, I felt so depressed. Because solipsism is something that two people cannot believe in, because they're refuting. That means I alone exist. And this lady said, I'm a solipsist too. Russell says, I felt very depressed. So, now, this is not solipsism. This is, all of us are real. But there could be someone behind all of us, a dreamer who is asleep, deeply asleep, while I am awake inside his dream. This someone would be outside all this in a different transcendent plane of existence. Thus, after drawing the distinction between immanent versus transcendent dream hypothesis, Moore type proof of the external world repudiates immanent dream possibility, but keeps transcendent dream possibility untouched. I am awake. There is proof of that. But all of this might be God's dream. Of course, the most surprising thing about Advaita Vedanta is that if you attend many classes by Sarvapriyananda at the end of your life, you might realize that this dreamer God is you, which, would work havoc with your practical life, by the way, and might give you a big head for some time. Indeed, very ancient realist non-dualists, and perhaps Spinoza, under a certain interpretation, embraced both direct realism about physical objects of perception and a transcendent God's dream hypothesis at the same time. This is the holy, not unholy, holy alliance between the Nayayikas and the Advaita Vedantis. Okay, about practical life, they are all realists. And they refute the Buddhist illusionist, Shankaracharya himself, because there is a Brahma Sutra, Vaidharmyachana Swapnadivat. This world is not like Swapna because there is a total opposition of characteristics. The characteristics of this world, because there are natural laws. Which brings me to my second topic, which is Maya. So there is a possibility of dream that we cannot eliminate. What does Maya have to do with it? Well, if this world was real, as Vivekananda's letters say, then there would have to be natural laws. Newton's laws, laws of gravitation, maybe ethical laws, karmic laws, all sorts of laws. Water freezes in a certain temperature. It melts in other temperatures. These are laws. We didn't invent them. These laws were operative even when there was no living being on earth. It was just floating magma. Just a little chunk had come out of the central mass of fire, and this was just cooling down. Even then, these laws were there. That's realism for you. Okay? So, the objectivity, the reality, the concreteness, the truth of this world, which so rudely shakes us into, saying that, okay, enough of Vedanta society, now you have to go to Wall Street. That's reality. Now, that world is based on causality. What is causality? The relation between cause and effect. Milk, properly curdled, becomes yogurt. Dark black clay, shapeless. Potter shapes it, bakes it, becomes nice terracotta pot. Chunk of marble, Carrara marble in Italy, in a quarry, lifted up, and this old man, hunchback, very tired after painting the Sistine Chapel, now he chisels away at it. It becomes David. Causality. Cause to effect. The marble is the cause, David, the sculpture, is the effect. The milk is the cause, the yogurt is the effect. The seed is the cause, the big flowering cherry blossom tree is the effect. Okay? Not to go too far back in my life, the little fetus is the cause, and this, white bearded, Q-tip-like man is with her heart. Yeah, that is the effect, right? Now, what is at the heart of this? And now we are not doing Upanishads, we are doing sheer, simple, logic, there are two possibilities. That this effect, obviously the tree doesn't look like the seed. The yogurt has properties which the milk does not have. It has new properties. With a lump of unshaped clay, you can't fetch water, but with the pot, you can. Obviously, the marble doesn't serve the same purpose as David. It doesn't attract as many tourists and bring, euros to Italy. So they have different properties. If two things have utterly different properties, they should be totally different. That's Leibniz's law. If two things are identical, then all their properties are the same. If all their properties are not the same, they're not identical. That's just contraposition. So, can we say they're utterly different? There is enough argument to say, no, they're not different. How could yogurt come from nothing? It only can come from milk. So, there is good reason to say everything that is in the yogurt, with some help, was already there in the milk. This view is called Satkaryavada. And there is good reason for that. And like Kant's antinomies, think of two columns. One column which argues that there is nothing new in the effect. Think about it. Is there anything in the sculpture of, David about to kill Goliath with a catapult, which is standing in Florence in the Academy? Okay. Everything of that was in the chunk of marble. There's nothing new. What has he done? Well, it'll be very insulting to say, all he has done is to remove some things. But it seems new. But it may seem new. But every effect is already pre-existent in the cause, one side. The other side says, no. There must be something new. Otherwise, you are denying change. There's been big change. If change is real, then there is novelty, something additional in the effect. Where did that additional come from? If you say it came from the cause, then you are again back in the old hypothesis. Satkarya. This is asatkaryavad. No, the effect was unreal in the cause. It's new. Well, then where did it come from? That little bit extra of the effect came from nothing. You believe in nothing creating something? If you believe in that, why don't you get some oil, gasoline, from sand? It's coming from nothing anyway. Just get anywhere. Just put your hand there is gasoline. You look where there is already gasoline. So you are supporting Satkaryavada. But you cannot deny that there is novelty. So what is the net result of this debate? The net result is the difference between cause and effect, which is what our world is running about, which is what our effort is directed at. If the child says, Mom, I cannot tolerate milk. I need some, what are these probiotic things? The mom can't say, well, it's the same thing, just have this, treat this as yogurt and give milk. You cannot. Okay? And so why? Because it's something new. So the novelty and the difference in the effect in all cases of causation is undeniably presented. But logically, it cannot be there. So it is presented, but impossible. This phenomenon, something which is presented, undeniably experienced, but logically does not make sense, therefore cannot be real, this is called Maya. That's the definition of Maya. Presented but unreal. More technically, cannot be fully unreal because it is seen, you can't deny it, and cannot be real because logically it doesn't make sense. Neither real or non-unreal is called anirvachaniya, indescribable. Vivekananda translates it as indescribable, indeterminate. That's Maya. And the world is like that. Which is not to say that the world doesn't exist. It neither exists nor does not exist. It breaks logic. What breaks logic is illogical. It's illogical but undeniable. Our experience of our life, when we are quiet, contemplative, and we are serious, we should understand that there is no logic to our experience. Which is not to say, let's go to San Francisco beach and just forget about logic because the real life. No, that's to say we have to work as if there are laws. But these laws are just ultimately, if you probe, they are illogical. The world is absurd. And Vivekananda in lecture after lecture after lecture says this, that don't expect. He goes back to the induction, laws of causality, about vyapti, wherever there is smoke, there is fire. He says this is all mind-made. And if imaginative mind creates another law, it'll be like that. But we cannot have that liberty. These kinds of illusions of absurdity, some collective mind has put this forward. So, the dream hypothesis, then comes the Maya, concept of Maya, magic, is simply, and where is this magic? Wherever there is causality, a time gap. Now think about it, even if you don't think about cause-effect. One of the things that about real life, not just dream life, real life, is that we grow old. Everything is growing old all the time. Your newborn baby is old. English is such a metaphysical language. It says 1 month old. You can't say, I am old. Baby is not. Baby is. It's 1 month old. Everybody is old. Why? Because from the second moment of life, there is a past. Now, I'm going beyond my script. I'm telling you, it is not so hard to understand why the world we experience is illogical. And yet, we have to work according to logic. That is true. Because we have experience and ethics and so on. Otherwise, people would say, if you say there is no law, then this is if you confuse law of the state, which is supposed to be protected by the police and this thing. But we are not talking about that laws. We are talking about natural laws. The natural laws are full of porous. So I'm giving a different example because I think it will be very easy to grasp. A very simple example. Everyone has a past. Not all of this that remembers in memory. Okay, you can say, my life is entirely in my memory. Not so. I don't know how talented you are, but I don't have any memory of my first month of my life. And my parents may be dead. They are actually dead. Nobody remembers that. Is it real now? Where is it? You say, there is a past. Is that grammatical? There is no past. The past is, in Nyaya terminology, it is dvangsa bhava pratiyogi. It is destroyed. And that which is destroyed is gone. So can I say, I never got a BA degree? Well, I'm not in Oxford now. I'm not doing doctoral study. And there was this, I just enjoyed this long introduction. Where is it? Where am I? Studying with Peter Strawson. Peter Strawson is dead. What is the past? Forget about that past. This morning, last night. Where is last night? Tell me. Is last night a dreamt object? Where is it? You say, it is in the past. That's just words. Then if you say, oh, it lives in my memory. Really? Thank God, everything of last night is not in my memory or anyone's. All of us, more or less, have done things in the past which you are hoping. is not in anyone's memory. Where is it? It's a serious question. Where is it? And yet, the so-called real objective world is a world in time. And time consists of past, present, and future. This guy Sri Harsha, about whom Nilanjan was speaking, beautiful arguments he gives that there is no time. Why? And this is not dream argument. This is not even showing that cause-effect is contradictory. It is just simply showing that if this world has to be real, it has to be a time-temporal world. Time, everybody agrees, has to be divided into past, present, and future. Then you start by this. What is future? That which comes after present. What is past? That which precedes the present. So everything is defined in terms of the present, right? Then you ask, what is the present? Very technically safe definition, the present is the moment in which I uttered the word present. Really? That, if you think about it, if this much is present now, part of that is already past, and part of that is future. In between, there is nothing. So the 3 times tenses, past, present, future, first become 2 tenses, past and future. Nothing else. This is given about time. Nyaya Sutras anticipate the fact that every fact about time can be spatially represented and every fact about space can be temporally represented. So it makes this point about time with an analogy of a temporal event, about a spatial event, that a fruit is falling from the branch. I can see it was in the branch, now it has fallen there. Suppose in midway, I catch it. That point divides its trajectory, its gradient in which it is falling, into 2 parts. The part already fallen and the part to fall. This is called patitam, patitavyam. That which yet to fall, patitavya, and patitam, already fall. Between patita, patitavya, there is no vartamana, there is no present. Vartamana bhava, patita, patitavya, dvidha vibhagat. This is the sutra. Because of twice, 2 times, not 3 parts. You can't say already fallen, to be fallen, and now falling. The now exhausts itself into 2 parts. You bit by bit. Okay? Deep down, this is like Zeno's paradoxes, which gave rise to differential calculus. Okay? So, with that, now you come back. Okay, then only past and future exist. Present doesn't exist. If present doesn't exist, you can't define past. You can't define future. All tense is gone. If all tenses are gone, time is gone. If time is gone, this world of change is gone. Therefore, it cannot be real. But it will insincere, completely fraudulent for us to say, I think this world is unreal. We live in this world, so it cannot be unreal. So the world is Maya, because neither real nor unreal. That's called Nirvachaniya. This is Maya. And Vivekananda in Jnana Yoga explains this very much. Now it brings me to the 3rd part of my talk, which is not new, but I think it is Swami Vivekananda's original contribution to Advaita Vedanta. The nature of pure consciousness is a big topic. It is on consciousness that this world of time, world of change, world of causality has been projected. But the world of causality is Maya. It is not fully real, it's not fully unreal. We need to get out of it. But how can we access from within causality something non-causal? Something outside of cause and effect law. The only way, according to Vivekananda, is love. Why? He starts with a beautiful, very witty and suggestive analysis. He chooses this metaphor. He says, I will tell you about love's triangle. You immediately think it's a kind of love triangle. like Desdemona being, wooed by both Othello and Cassio. This is typical story from Shakespeare to Bollywood, two people loving one person, love triangle. But then he immediately dashes your expectations and he says, there are three things that define love. Prema. First, love does not fear. Second, love gives freedom to the loved, does not enslave. So forget about the fetters of love. You are mine, nobody else's. Hereby, because I love you, I have no rights over you. That's love. It's a freeing. And by freeing the other person, for the first time, the lover also becomes free. Free not only from other laws and even sometimes morality, but free from natural laws. He goes beyond causality. Why? Last reason, most important. Love does not expect anything. There is no expectation. And Vivekananda is never tired of castigating a love which waits for reciprocation. It's all one-way love. Because Vivekananda says that is shopkeeping, that is trade, that is commerce, which says, I loved you so much, what will you do for me? Right? That is selfishness. Here there is a little digression about the paradigm of selfishness, egoistic selfishness, how stupid that makes people. It is told, unfortunately, as a sort of intra-Indian racist joke, so I will not mention the particular community about which this joke is told. It can be told about every community, but you can guess also. But I'm not making that joke. But the joke is, there's this Indian sitting on his charpai in Southall, London, which is a little India. And a British man comes running to him and says, there's fire. There's fire, run. And this Indian man, very quiet and relaxed, he says, Menuki. What's that to me? What is that to me? Why should I be interested? Then the British man says, no, your house is on fire, your own house. He still sits and he says, Tenuki, what is it to you? Because he doesn't understand that for one person's problems, another person can be interested. And that's more or less the view of British utilitarians. Jeremy Bentham, John Stuart Mill, great philosopher John Stuart Mill. Says the system of logic, the father of utilitarianism, on which Amartya Sen's economics is based. But you should know a little bit about his biography. He was preaching democracy, equality, representative government, and the principle of maximize happiness, etc., in England. But he was drawing his salary from the East India Company. He was promoting the enslavement and colonization of India, John Stuart Mill. So their philosophy is based on this principle. Because you can only feel your own happiness, therefore you can only seek that. But the hope of Adam Smith and later on of Milton Friedman is that after all, if everybody does enough self-seeking, ultimately the market forces will trickle down. You have heard this from George Bush to Oliver Town. There will be trickle-down effect, okay? But Vivekananda hates this from his guts, okay? And he says, and even Abhinav Gupta, in his beginning of Ishvara Pratyavijna Vimarshini, says, this is not a curse on human beings, that human beings cannot work for the sake of others. They can only work for selfishly. He says, Nayam daiva shapaha. Jat swarthena prachoditaha karma karoti na pararthena iti. So he rejects even psychological egoism, which Abraham Lincoln accepts. Because Abraham Lincoln was late for a session, and on the way, he stopped to help a man in the ditch. And one of his, toadies, he said, "Sir, you are so unselfish." He said, "No. Seeing that man in the ditch was making me uncomfortable. I just took my discomfort away. I am always working for myself." Right? I mean, he was a great man, but he believed in utilitarianism. But Abhinavagupta does not. And Vivekananda says, in this world, if you are thinking about utility maximization, productivity, you are not loving. If you are thinking, it'll be good for me to love my wife because that is healthy for me, then you are not loving. If you are thinking, I love my wife so that she loves me back, you're not loving. If you are thinking, I am hers and she is mine, you're not loving. It's supposed to be free. This love is the love about which Brihadaranyaka Upanishad gives an analogy of deep sleep by saying, just as, and if we can quote and enjoy English quotes, it's a good idea to actually hear some even half understood Sanskrit, because that adds a certain certain kind of authority. I'll tell you the authority of ancient languages. You see, I had this vocal cord problem, right? So 15 years ago, I found myself as a fellow in Trinity College, Cambridge, Newton's College, Wittgenstein's College. So they said, why don't you go to Edinburgh's hospital, which is the Cambridge hospital? So they treat. And after many investigations, then I got its second opinion from UCLA Medical School. They wrote down, my medical investigations were successful, knowledge-wise. They suggested, of course, a new technology. They said, we can, every 6 months, inject Botox, okay, which, is sort of to straighten the skins of Hollywood stars after they're 60. So I said, I don't want to do that. What's the success rate? They said, well, 33% get better, 33% get much worse, and for 33%, it makes no difference, which, if you think statistically, means it makes no difference, because 3 possible outcomes evenly distributed. So I didn't do that. But I was successful, because in Latin, the prescription said, Professor Chakrabarti is suffering from spasmodic dysphonia, which is Latin for a broken voice. His sounds is off, as you can see. But if I said, my disease's sound is off, you would not, that is not science. But if you write RX, which nobody knows what that means, that's Latin. And RX, and underneath you say dysphonia, that's great. We should replace that with Sanskrit words. Authority, the voice of science. Okay. Priyaya striya samparishvakto, by a darling woman, when a man is embraced. He does not know inside or outside. He does not know himself or others. And this other-oriented thought, for a moment, this is just an analogy. They are not saying go around embracing women. They are saying like that in deep sleep. Okay? For a moment, for some time, we achieve a non-objectifying, pure state where the difference between me and others goes. This is the rapturous experience of ecstatic union with something. And what happens as a result of that? What happens is, apahatapapna, if this can happen, this kind of unification with the cosmos, like embracing, then tadjatha priyaya striya samparishvakto na bhajyam kinchana veda nantaram eva evayam purusha prajgena atmana asya etat aptakamam atmakamam akamam rupam shokantaram. I want to fix on Shankaracharya's commentary. For those of you, I know not all of you understand Hindi, but because Swamiji gave me the Hindi translation, वह इसका काम रहित व्यवहार में अपनी प्रिया भार्या को आलिंगन करने वाले पुरुष को न कुछ बाहर का ज्ञान रहता है न भीतर का। इसी प्रकार यह पुरुष प्राज्ञ आत्मा से आलिंगित होने पर न कुछ बाहर का विषय जानता है न भीतर का। ये आप्तकाम, आत्मकाम, अकाम और शोक शून्य होता है। Now there is this word. I did a little bit of analytical exercise. How is Shankaracharya explaining shokantaram? He explains it in two ways. The person actually, by loving somebody else, not in the sense of narcissism, but the person identifies, and since everybody likes freedom, if you really identify with another person, to love that person would be say, she should feel, he should feel as free as I want to free. And thereby, they are embracing a bigger Atman, a bigger cosmic soul. And as a result, he gets what he wants. This is proper getting your desired object. Otherwise, getting every desired object, according to Oscar Wilde, there can be only one thing, bad news, worse than the news of not getting what you wanted. And Oscar Wilde says, that worst thing is getting what you wanted. And why is that? Because you realize this doesn't satisfy me. And there is a logical reason why it does not. I'm sure somebody has said this, but recently I have figured it out. I may be wrong, which is this. What do I want? At this point, I want, in Uttarkashi and above, a small cottage that I want to retire in, where I'll have the Upanishads, I'll have Rabindranath Tagore's complete works, Swami Vivekananda's complete works, that's all. And then I can retire. Listening to the sound of Ganga following from Gangotri, this is what I want. What are the characteristics of this cottage? It should have one bedroom, a nice clean bathroom, running water, and it is the cottage I do not have. That's what my dream object is. I do not have. These are three important characteristics. Suppose, the Consul General makes it available to me. But how best will the cottage be? It will have one bedroom. It will be just on the Ganga, and the Indian Tibetan border police will not bother because the ashram where I lived was circled by ITBP. So in any case, it will be all of that, but it will not be the house I do not have. Because the moment I sign the papers, it will be a big burden. I have to own it, pay tax on it, and I have to worry about the thieves. So as soon that characteristic will be missing, which is the characteristic which makes it so attractive to me, that I do not have it. That's why it is so much more fun to pursue somebody in love interest who is not interested in you and who is unattainable. Okay? So all the young kids are imagining, all these, celebrities or something, because it's attractive because you don't have it. But imagine that person really in your bedroom, right? Amazing. It's the most nauseating thought. Right? So this is the paradox of desire. But this guy, identifying himself, is aptakam. Why? Atmakam. Because atma is this object of desire. And as a result, akama. He has no kama. His desire has gone. Okay? Why? Not because he has become a sort of experimental Gandhi-like, totally very austere celibate. He has become love. Love is his own nature. He has found that nature. And what is the method of that? And with that, I will end the Upanishad part. And I'll take just 5 more minutes. Where the central Vedanta message Atma should be seen. The self should be seen. The self should be meditated upon. About the self you should listen to from the scriptures. And then you should meditate. And then you become one with Brahman. This, I hope most of you know here, is in the context of a beautiful dialogue between a husband who lovingly is leaving his home. His name is Yajnavalkya. And he is not a poor Brahmin. This is a very worldly guy initially. As a young man, he attended, and he had 2 wives. So, he's no celibate. He has 2 wives, Katyayani and Maitreyi. And this whole discussion happens in Maitreyi dialogue with Yajnavalkya in his old age. And when he says, I am leaving home, leaving both of you, I want to give my wealth to you. Maitreyi says, he doesn't say, please don't go. Not because she doesn't love her. She says, is this wealth going to make me deathless? Now we all quote that. But look at the humdrum, ordinary context. Because what is she afraid of? That when she goes, he goes. Okay? After all, death will come. She perhaps wanted to die in the presence of the husband. But the husband is leaving. She has no sorrow. She just simply says, will this make me immortal? The wealth. Yajnavalkya says, no. This will make, very interesting word. It will make you upakaranavan. You can buy gadgets. Upakarana means gadgets. You can buy the latest 5G. Smartphones. You can buy, such a big fridge that you can live in it. Not just 2 doors, 3-door fridge, 4-door garage, upakaranavan. But no vittena tarpaniyo manusya. But wealth will not satisfy you. It will never make you immortal. Then tell me what makes me immortal. Maitreyi says. And that's the dialogue where this occurs. Atma va are drashtavya, etc., etc. Now, I'm saying he was not a poor man. He had wealth to give. He was not saying, here is my, $100 a month pension. I'm giving it to you. No. He had hundreds and thousands of cows with golden horns in his house. Because in his youth, he attended an international workshop. And a great grand giver called King Janaka said, if anybody proves himself to the greatest knower of Brahman, Brahmishta, the great, Shtha means superlative, like Sreshta. Okay, Preshta means maximum. So maximum knowledge of Brahman. Then that person will get 100 cows with gold horns. Now who will? So everybody is hushed, silence. This young Yajnavalkya gets up. He has always brought, that's why I brought Amit to the conference. You always have to bring your PhD students. So he calls his PhD students, hey, take those cows to my home. And then there is furor. And then the king says, you have not even started debating. Why are you taking them home? He says, beautifully, and Sarvapriyananda likes this joke, and he says it in many places. I'll also say it. I salute the best knower of Brahman. I need the cows. And this is in Sanskrit. I'm not making this up. Namo vayam brahmishtaya kurma gokama vayam. We just want the cows. And then starts the debate. That was youth. So I put two and two together. When he's leaving home, even if the cows have died, okay, but the gold is still there. So he's offering it to Maitreyi, and poor foolish Maitreyi is refusing that because she wants to know the secret of how you can be immortal. Immortal does not mean you will never die. You will keep growing old. That's not immortal. Immortal means outside of causation. Because the fear, and repeatedly here, it says, when you have that love, you become abhayam. 4 times, abhaya, abhayam, tadvai brahma, abhayam. Fearlessness is, remember one of the corners of the love triangle. Love does not fear. Everything else fears. Scholarly confidence, getting an endowed chair, you are afraid. Others who did not get it are going to screw you. Competition is there in everything. In domestic harmony, even putting your children to schools, there is fear. God knows what will happen. Okay? Maybe that school is a hotbed of drugs. What will they learn? Fear. Only one thing is fearless. Loving without any reason. Bob Dylan has a song, "My beloved is ugly." The ugliest woman I love. She has holes between teeth. You ask me why I love? I don't know. This is pure love. I don't expect her to even love me back. I just love her. This is beyond causality. And I just want to end with reading out to you all a poem which this morning Atmapriyananda ji said was the first poem by Swami Vivekananda that he memorized. In that, denouncing his lifelong exercise with philosophy, with spiritual practices, with asceticism, with going with a begging bowl all over India, practicing meditation, yoga, pranayama, he denounces all that and says, this is just delusion of the intellect. It's nothing. There's only one boat, one ferry, which takes us across this ocean of suffering we call our life. One ferry, one boat, and that is love, and that is love, and that is love. So here is the Bengali poem. I have spent half of my life trying to get learning and knowledge and education. Vidya hetu kori pranpan ordek korechi ayukkhoy. Prem hetu, seeking love from humans. Unmader motu, pranahin dhorechi chhayaye. I have grabbed at shadows, just seeking a little bit of love. Dharmo tore kori kotomot gangatir shmashan aloy. I have practiced religious practices in a funeral ground, in a cremation ground. Noditir parbat gavar in caves on the river banks. Bhikkashane kotokal jay. Ashahay chinno dash pore. Ki dhan korinu uparjan. What have I earned? It's the sound of a frustrated man. But look at this. Shono boli moromer kotha. Now this is Vivekananda, the philosopher. Vivekananda, the prophet. Vivekananda, the devotee. Vivekananda, the world teacher. Vivekananda, the revolutionizer of global interfaith movement. All of those Vivekanandas are subjugating themselves to the Vivekananda, the lover. He says, Shono boli moromer kotha, জেনেছি জীবনে সত্যসার তরঙ্গ আকুল ভবঘোর এক তরি করে পারাপার. One boat takes you across. মন্ত্র তন্ত্র প্রাণ নিয়মন মতামত দর্শন বিজ্ঞান ত্যাগ ভোগ বুদ্ধির বিভ্রম. These are illusions of intellect, including Vedanta vichar, including yoga practices. All of this. Tag, bhog, even renunciation. And of course enjoyment. So both the Gandhi way and the Osho way. Buddhir Bibram. Prem, prem, ei matradhan. Thank you.
I was thinking about Q&A, but in this very Vedanta society, more than 100 years ago, Swami Vivekananda gave a talk, not in this building. Swami Vivekananda gave a talk. Swami Abhedanandaji was present at that time. And Swami Turiyanandaji was present at that time. After the talk, and this is a reminiscence of Swami Turiyananda, Swami Vivekananda gave a very powerful talk, uplifting. After the talk, Swami Abhedananda, who was in charge at that time, stood up to announce, now we will have Q&A. And Swami Vivekananda, with an annoyed tone, he said, what are you saying? I have actually given something. Erpore prashnottar. After this question answers, you'll spoil the whole mood. So instead of Q&A, what I would like to do is, I would like to invite revered Swami Atmapriyananda ji to give observations. Yes.
It's always a delight to listen to Arindam Chakrabarti and how he can connect very abstruse, deep philosophical ideas with down-to-earth things. And those of you very carefully listened, I hope none of you went to a dream state, would understand that he has given a huge number of ideas, all of them flowing from one to the other, as P.G. Woodhouse once said, each idea following the other, dovetailed into the other with an almost audible click. That was P.G. Woodhouse's language. So he talked about, in the beginning, the dream. And Swami Vivekananda also said, when he was a very powerful Advaitin, in the Prabuddha Bharata, to the awakened India, the last paragraph of that, last stanza, be bold and face the truth. Be one with it. Let visions cease. Or if you cannot, dream but truer dreams which are eternal love and service free. So if you're an Advaitin, there is nothing for you to achieve. Swami Vivekananda had two distinct paradigms in Advaita, in Vedanta. If you read his letters, many of them quoted by Arindam Chakrabarti, in his public talks, he is very different. So if you want to really understand Vivekananda, read his very intimate letters, his observations, and how he threw certain comments very casually, containing very deep thought. He always talked about struggle, struggle, struggle. You have come into the world, make a mark. When very old senior Swami said, everybody makes a mark, the whole wall will be full of marks. We are so anxious to make a mark. We want to do something in this world. That's the Western way. I have come here to do something. Vedanta says just be. That's why Vedanta is very difficult to pick up. Yoga is picking up, there's something for you to do. Yoga says, now sit down. Close your eyes. Breathe through the nose. I can do something. Vedanta says, what do I do? Nothing. Swami Vivekananda was encountered by an American gentleman excitedly. Swami, what are we to do? Swami said, nothing. After a pause, he said, if you can't really do it, do some good to society. The most difficult thing is to do nothing because there's nothing for you to do, nothing for you to achieve. You are that infinite self and nothing more for you to achieve except the removal of the ignorance that you are not the infinite. That is Shankara's position. So on the one hand, it always talks about struggle, struggle, struggle. Puja tar, sangram apar, sada parajay, tahata darak toma, churno ho, sharta shadhaman, hriday shmashan, nachuk tahade shama. These 2 poems I memorized when I started learning Vivekananda. So let yourself be destroyed, let the entire heart become a cremation ground, and the Divine Mother Shama, let her dance there. Your whole life will be converted into a continuous sangram. That means a battle with all the forces which are opposing you. That's one paradigm. The other paradigm is, Vivekananda was asked by an American disciple about life they were discussing. She said, life is but a huge stage in which you are actors, quoting Shakespeare. Swami Vivekananda thought for a while and said, but madam, I think slightly differently. The world is a huge circus in which we have come to tumble down. Then she was simply astonished. But Swami, why do we tumble down? Because we are like tumbling down, and we are tired of it, we quit. That means we are free. All that we are doing is out of choice. We want to tumble down, we better tumble down. There's nothing for you to achieve, nothing for you to get. In a beautiful letter to Francis Leggett, he writes, at 20 years of age, I was the most uncompromising, unsympathetic fanatic. I would not walk in the road near the theatre side in Calcutta, but at 33, I can live in the same house with prostitutes and not feel like saying a word of reproach to them. Is it degenerate? Or is it that I'm growing into the universal love which is God Himself? Sometimes I get a sort of ecstasy. Even if there's a devil, I feel like going and embracing him. It's a funny world, and the funniest chap you ever saw is He, the beloved infinite. A school of romping children let out to play, brotherhood or playmatehood. They want explanations. But how do you explain Him? He is brainless and is fooling us with little brains. This time He won't catch me napping. I have found a thing or two. Beyond everything is the love. I, Sakhe, fill up the cup and we will be mad. You are ever in madness, Swami Vivekananda. Umar Khayyam, the Madhushala. So what he was saying is, ultimately there is something which is beyond all this, which he called love, as Arindam Chakrabarti beautifully explained. How do you connect that which is beyond causality? What are the truths? Every religion, verse its name says, the ultimate truth is beyond time, beyond space, beyond causality, infinite in the absolute. And all that you do in the relative world to realize that truth is with the mind, with the body, and with the constraints of space, time, and causality. How can a sadhana which is in causality lead you to something which is beyond causality? There is only one boat, ek tori kore parapar, which is love. Pure, selfless, absolute love. Why? Even in the worldly love, love is something which has no cause. You can't ask why about love. Why do you love that person? I don't know. I like him. So I've been dealing with students all my life. Somebody said, why did you not come to the class? Oh, I didn't like it. You can't ask why you didn't like it. I didn't like it, that's it. A person likes and does not like. There's no causal connection between what you are doing now and what you are attaining. The whole chain of causality, unless it breaks, you can't be catapulted, as it were, into the supreme experience which is done without the chain of causality. Suddenly we're thrown into that. So Swami Vivekananda is very fond of saying this, and the supreme statement was made by Sri Ramakrishna himself, in which he said, Dema pagal kore brahmama. It's a famous song. Sri Lokanath Sannal wrote it. Mother, make me mad with divine love. What do you have, jnana and vichara? So in Hinduism particularly, all our gods are mad. Shiva is mad, Kali is mad, Khepa and Khepi. And Holy Mother Sharada Devi was very fond of a song by Ram Prasad, Khepar Hat Bajar, Mato Dir Khepar Hat Bajar. The entire world is a marketplace of mad people. Madness is one thing which is beyond causality. I thought about why madness is constantly spoken about. If a mad person comes and says something, he does something which is supposed to be unlawful, you can't punish him because he is mad. Why? He has not done it through a causal connection of doing and the consequences of doing. Therefore, Sri Ramakrishna says in the Gospel, in the Kathamrita, Kolite Ishwar Pratyoko Gatha Bolenna. Kintu Ache, তিনি পাগলের মুখে এবং শিশুর মুখে কথা বলেন. In Kali Yuga, God doesn't talk to people directly, but He speaks through a child and through a madman. Why a child and a madman? These two people are completely beyond causality. A child has no causal connection. I'll tell you an interesting incident and stop. Dr. Abdul Kalam, or one of our illustrious presidents of India, he had come for a convocation address. I was present at that time. He had Z++ security at that time. So much of security. The convocation was just about to begin. A small child, perhaps the child of one of the officers there, he just came in front of Kalam and said, and walked away. If I had done that, I would have been arrested. But this child, everybody was so happy, everybody was caressing that child. How wonderful. What is the reason? Because the child lives beyond causality. If you go beyond causality and live a life which is non-causal, then you live a life of completeness, fulfillment, and joy. A joy that you get through causal means will always end in sorrow. The Bhagavad Gita says this causality, Bhagavad Gita explains as sparsha. Sparsha is you touch this, you do this, and from that you get this. Ehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayono evate adyandavanta kaunte yanadeshramade buddha. Contrasted by that, there is another kind of sparsha, which is called Brahma samsparsha. Brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamashnute. So anything which you receive because of causal connection will always end in sorrow. So there is something which arises within you spontaneously, naturally, non-causally, and that catapults you into a region in which causality completely vanishes. That's why Ramakrishna always was fond of saying, be mad with God's love. How much can you realize God through devotion? And in the world also, this is something which really touches you. Even in a worldly love, in which we expect something, we want to possess somebody, even there is a joy in it, and through blows you understand you can't do that. The triangle of love, which is beautifully explaining. So Swami Vivekananda says it has to be ending in freedom, because love has to be based on freedom, because it is based on abhaya. The moment there are two, there is a bhaya. Dvitiyadvai bhayam bhavati. And abhaya is equated with Brahman. Abhayam vai Brahma, abhayam vai janaka praptosi. And Swami Vivekananda's entire message is based on this one idea of abhaya. Be fearless, be strong, not based upon the bodily and the physical strength, but the non-causal, unborn, divine, supreme source of love in which you embrace the entire world in one embrace of pure universal love. I don't expect anything from anybody. I don't want anything. If you don't want anything, you become totally empty. Because you want something, I give this, and I want this in return. So the emptiness from which this arises, what Nagarjuna called the shunya, is actually the purna. Buddhism, starting from shunya, developed the idea of compassion, which always appeared to be so intriguing to me. When you completely empty yourself, how is it they're so compassionate? Only when you empty yourself of your little egoism, you don't possess and keep something to yourself, then only you can be completely free. In that freedom, there is fearlessness, and in that fearlessness, there is prema, and there is love. Thank you so much. And we have enjoyed your talk thoroughly, and we got a rich feast, which will be followed by a physical feast now.
There's a phrase in America, top of their game. So both Professor Arindam Chakrabarti and Swami Atmapriyanandaji are top of their game. I feel inspired to say a couple of things also. Partly to, yes, do come. Yes. They say that God is the worst financial manager. He's always asking for money. So as I was reminded of, when Professor Chakrabarti was speaking, and then followed up by comments from Swami Atmapriyanandaji about this non-doing. I had heard from a sadhu in Uttarakhand that when he was young, he had gone to a monk who came to their village, was sitting under a tree and giving upadesha, teachings about Vedanta. And this boy, he went forward and asked, please tell me, what do I practice? Kya karna hai? What do I do? And the monk replied, don't do anything, kuch mat karo. The boy was surprised. What are you saying? Then the monk said, without doing anything, so much has come. If you do a little more, it will keep on increasing. Bin kiye hi itna aa gaya, aur karoge to kitna badhega in Hindi. But that's the most difficult thing to do nothing. So if you cannot do nothing, then you must do spiritual practices, meditation and prayer and yoga and service and so on. And on a more philosophical note, those of us who are studying Mandukya Upanishad, notice how we are in Advaita Prakaranam now, the third chapter. What we are discussing now, non-causality, that is not giving and taking, non-causality, fearlessness, abhayam, and freedom, mukti. This is exactly the outcome of Advaita are these three, and this is exactly the triangle of love, which Swami Vivekananda talks about. Freedom, no give and take, and no fear. So this triangle of love, prema of Swami Vivekananda, and the non-duality of Gaudapada are virtually the same, just as Karuna, the Mahakaruna of Mahayana Buddhism, and Shunyata of Nagarjuna are exactly the same. And now Sri Ramakrishna will have the last word. He said, Khali pete dharma hai na. You can't have spirituality on an empty stomach. So the time to, please do come and join us downstairs. Please let the guests and visitors leave first. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.